I'm gonna tell you a story about a girl who loves gin. A national pandemic seized her birthday celebration. Although she knew it was coming, we tried not to tell her. She brewed some Irish breakfast tea. She knew her birthday was getting corona. It was like those.
Hello, welcome everybody to the Powell Not Found podcast. I am Mark Powell, the host of the Powell Not Found podcast, the show where I talk about the things I want to talk about. A very self-serving premise, but it is my podcast. I do get to make the rules. We got a pretty good show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about that 737 MAX footage that was kind of crazy sweeping the internet. We're going to be talking about the Greatest Showman. We're going to be talking about some VR stuff that I've been kind of playing lately, which I think has been kind of blowing my mind after ignoring it for so long. And we're going to talk about some workout stuff that I've been doing with the headset as well. And a review of The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman. I'm only 5 years late to the party, so I figured, hey, this is the time. This is where the vacuum of the internet, no one's talking about The Greatest Showman because it's old news. This is the time to bring it back. But before we get going, we're going to start off with a song. Again, another song I wrote called Yes, I Will. When I was just a wee old lad of 30. I was working in at a restaurant at the time, and I was getting a new job, and I wrote this song kind of in like a acoustic fashion on the guitar. I wanted something fast. I wanted something with a kind of a fun bass line that the song would just continue to drive, and this is the song that kind of came out of it. I really, really enjoy the bass line on this song. There are some times when you look back on your playing and you realize you're like, man, I can't believe I actually made that walking bass line. But it's really impressive. I think it's really fun to listen back. I'm not sure if I can duplicate it, which is kind of an interesting thing because I haven't been playing it that often, but it is a really cool song. One of the little bits, if I do say so myself, I did write it, so I am kind of inherently biased a little bit. One of the cool things about this song is that the little mouth trumpet in the back you'll hear is literally just me. I was trying to put a kazoo, some weird instrument in, and it just didn't sound right, so I ended up just going to kind of get the intended effect. It does go out of tune in spots, but overall, it's a really, really cool song. I want you guys to check it out. So without further ado, this is Yes, I Will, kicking off episode 1, again, of the Powell Not Found podcast. Go ahead, like, subscribe, do all the stuff that all YouTubers tell you to do, and hit and smash that subscribe button. And here is the song, Yes, I Will, by myself, Powell Not Found.
I only need one chord to play to write the ship I'm on. Gonna tell you I drop the line and erase those sails if I write those pesky wrongs. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Well I blew my chance and I let you down and I left it on the rack. I'm gonna get back up again and never stop till I get you back. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Well I've been trying to get your number. Well I've been trying every night. And if you're inclined to let me be your lover, I'll never let you down again. I'll love you to the very end. But late at night when the bars are closed and the light is laying low, I tell you that I love you and I'll never let you go. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Hey! Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Oh yes I will. Well, I've been trying to make it better. Well, I've been trying every night. And if I finally go and get her, I'll never let her down again. I'll love her to the very end. But late at night when the bars are closed and the light is laying low, I tell you that I love you, dear, and I'll never let you go. Oh yes I will. 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 Oh yes I will.
There's that mouth trumpet. Sorry about the little mess up. When you're doing production by yourself, you occasionally start clicking some buttons that are not supposed to be clicked, and that was what that little hiccup was in the beginning. But again, you can find that track again at powellnotfound.bandcamp.com. It's for free or suggested donation, which is not a good way to make money, by the way, especially if no one's looking at it. So go ahead and try to download that track. Yeah, I still like that track. I still like that walking bass line. It still feels like things are moving. Probably should re-record it at some point. Yeah, so right now, popping open, we've got a new segment that I'm going to try to make. Last week I was drinking a Hoppy Place IPA from a brewery that I really like called the Old Ox Brewery, and loved their beer. So this week I have a different beer I picked up from Whole Foods, which is probably not a great way to... it's Sunday, so hey, what the hell. This is called Three Notch Brewing Company, local lager, and I figured we would list out these beers, these different drinks, and kind of rate them as we go. This one has the basically a tagline that says beer that tastes like beer, and they're not kidding. It literally tastes like a very, very standard beer that you would get. I'm not sure how wild I am about the label. It does look like something you might see in the 50s. Or on set somewhere on a play. But that's what I'm drinking right now. It's good enough for a podcast. So we're going to put it on the list here as we start the show. And I tell you what, three notched, if I can spell, notched brewing company. And I guess this is called local lager. And that's going to come off the list. Boom. You guys can see that. All right. Sweet. I'm telling you, a lot of people could have used a drink on that plane, on that 737 MAX, that was some of the craziest looking footage I've ever seen. I mean, thank God everybody was safe, but when a door blows off the airplane, you're not doing a lot of people favors with their fear of flying if they have one. If they didn't have one, they probably have one already. That was quite something. I feel bad for everybody involved, honestly. It's got to be a PR nightmare for Boeing. It's got to be for those people working overtime, trying to go back and forth. For those people on the plane, that's got to be a really frightening. We get on planes all the time, and we hear the speech that they give us beforehand, hoping that nothing ever happens. But you don't expect the door or the whatever that was, the emergency exit, to come off the plane. It was kind of ironic because this weekend I was literally telling my nephew, emergencies in planes are almost, it's so rare for that to happen. Same day this happens. And again, kudos to the people who got back on the flight back to Ontario to get back home, on a plane, on a different plane. They've since grounded them for investigations and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But again, kicking that fear of flying after being on an emergency flight, one would argue that it's probably easier after something like that happens to get on another plane because the chances are low that anything else will happen. But what some frightening stuff coming out of there. I mean, I had a fear of flying for a long time. Didn't like doing it. I actually only got over it just from constantly flying with the company that I work for, and going back and forth, and eventually you just start seeing the routine of the plane and start kind of understanding more of that it's, you know, it's not dangerous at all to fly. You start realizing how irrational of a fear it really is. And one of the ways I got over it was just, it helped me just knowledge of how airplanes work. There's a great YouTuber, I don't mind shouting him out, I'll probably tag him in the comments. Go watch 74 Gear. He is a pilot who takes you through the ins and outs of how airplanes work in really humorous series and videos, and he debunks a lot of different things that people are saying about planes in a very accurate and a very intelligent way. He literally, you know, after consuming a lot of his content, he eliminated my fear of flying pretty much within a year's span of going on those flights. Made me less nervous when I started to kind of understand what everything's doing, what's happening during the course of the flight, the operations, the redundancies, all the things that make flying safe. It was such a great find on YouTube that I feel like you guys got to go subscribe to his channel and start learning about how flying works. It was such a godsend to make me less nervous about flying. And so, but yeah, hopefully, you know, everything, you know, goes back to normal. Hopefully that event never happens again. But man, what some striking looking footage on that plane. And I was kind of shocked that everyone seemed like it was, you know, everyone seemed relatively calm. I know everyone would be really frightened in that situation, but kudos to all those people on the flight for remaining calm, and kudos to the pilots for landing that plane. That's quite the amazing feat. Let's see here. But yeah. So this week I did a little bit something different this week, which was I've been playing a lot of video games. You know, it's been coming over the Christmas break, the New Year's break. Had a lot of time to kind of catch up on some things that I wanted to kind of catch up on, just kind of rest my mind, have a nice break. And as I started to do that, I started to kind of realize, I'm like, man, I got to get outside because it's getting colder here, and less opportunities to kind of go outside as the weather gets kind of bad. And so I got an ad for Supernatural workouts in VR, and I remembered back in 2021, I had picked up a headset, a MetaQuest 2 headset, and mostly on the encouragement of one of my coworkers who wanted to still interact, even though we were all in a lockdown situation. And so, honestly, the thing was kind of collecting dust, to be honest. I think the VR zeitgeist, the excitement, had kind of fizzled. I think that's kind of fair to say, that it fizzled out a little bit. It seemed a lot of the games were kind of gimmicky. I remember when I first purchased it, I think the thing came with like a $30 credit at the time, and I've downloaded Beat Saber. I still think that game is really good. You know, if you guys are unfamiliar with Beat Saber, basically you have two lightsabers in your hand, and you're grooving to some music, and you're slicing blocks, and it's kind of has that Guitar Hero-esque kind of energy. It is the killer app probably for most VR headsets, but I wanted to kind of see if these workout things, workout games, workout applications had any kind of merit to them. I realized over the course of this year, I want to actually actively lose weight. This beer is not helping, but it's Sunday, so give me a break. And the only way I could think of doing it in these months that seem kind of just boring and banal and gray and all, these months that are depressing for working out. Going outside is like a little bit too cold. How can I trick my body? This is where I am in my weight loss journey. How can I trick my body enough to start being active? A couple years ago, I also picked up Ring Fit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. That game will kick your ass. It is no joke. It comes with a fitness ring. It's a little bit too cartoony, I feel like, in the story mode to kind of get you going. But when you feel the results of what it does to you in the morning, and maybe this is just me, maybe somebody's like, this is not that big of a workout. You feel it. And it began, and that's, I think, where it began, like tricking my body into working out, getting that 30 minutes a day. How do I get those 10,000 steps if I don't want to go outside? And that's when I put on Supernatural, and I started kind of playing with the free trial that they had. I didn't buy it, but I, had 7 days free trial for it. This isn't an ad. I'm just telling you my experience with it. It was actually pretty good. It is Beat Saber, right? But it's a little bit more intense Beat Saber. I think it helps that there's recognizable music. That was one of the things that, putting on this headset again, I started to kind of realize that if you don't know the music, it's really hard to keep playing those things to generic, almost Shutterstock music-esque beats. Some of them might be really good, but I put on a Jonas Brothers playlist. Holy crap, by Cake by the Ocean, not only was I hooked into it, I just wanted to keep on going. It's also a good way to get exposed to just some music that maybe you're not going to put on the radio. Or put on the Spotify just by chance. There's some artists on there where I'm not that familiar with their work, but like, hey, maybe I will try some Sam Smith, maybe I will try some Post Malone if it's in this context, and then it will give me that exposure, because that's probably not going to be in my playlist going forward, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll get exposed to the music. So I like that familiarity with their workout routine, which is probably what an actual live aerobics class at a gym would be like. But then you're talking about a membership, right? You're talking, and in this one, you're still talking about a membership. They're still going to try to get you for however much it is. I think it's like $100 a year or something like that. They're still going to try to get you for that kind of money. But man, is it worth it? So they have a boxing mode as well, which is kind of took me back to doing a kickboxing class in Hoboken when I lived over there. There was a kickboxing company right above the shop right there, and I took a class there. It was a free trial class there. I could not believe how much my body just rejected doing that. My hands hurt from hitting the punching bag. They made you go through drills. It was a experience for someone who's not experienced with heavy workouts. But this one, I kind of liked it. They put you in two different stances, and you kind of punch away, again, kind of Beat Saber style. And again, it was a good way. It was a good workout. It felt like I was moving. It felt like I was kind of burning some calories. It was a good experience overall. Will I actually go forward and pay for it? Who knows? Maybe. I mean, if it's really, it made me feel better. The endorphins were real. But yeah, it was such an interesting experience, and that led me to the next game I want to talk about here that kind of like rounded out my experience, which is, let me get this up here. Let's see here. And if you're listening, this is SuperHot. I paid for this game about $25, I think it was on. It's very hard to explain this game if you're not familiar with this game. This game is actually one of the apps too, along with Beat Saber, that I think really define the virtual reality experience. It is a great game. Basically, time stops if you don't move. And when you move, time begins again. And you're basically taking out these like nebulous red bad guys. It is a in this kind of utopian, dystopian world. And what a game it is. It really does kind of immerse you so much that you kind of lose yourself in that world. And I feel like with VR, it's harder to do that because one, you're wearing a headset too, which is just like, you can feel it, especially in those workout games. You can kind of feel it, especially when they start telling you to stretch. But in this one, I honestly lost track of time. It was one of those things where I wanted to figure out the puzzle mechanic in order to kind of keep on going in the levels. And again, when you feel that way and it's one thing to feel that way when you have a controller and you're playing, The Legend of Zelda or whatever, or your Elden Rings or what have you, and you're on the couch. But if you're immersed in the world and you want to keep going and you lose track of that time, that's really, really kind of special. And honestly, those are the types of experiences I want to keep on replicating with these headsets. I think there's a reason that the MetaQuest 2 laid on my shelf for months without usage, because the games are kind of gimmicky, for the most part. There's experiences that I want to try. I've heard good things about Google Earth VR that really, makes your experience, those travel games that are really put you in those worlds. I think VR is great for that. But in terms of game experiences, a lot of them almost feel shovelware-y the way that Wii games felt by the end of its life cycle, where if anyone can make a buck on anything, they would put that stuff up there. So you do have to kind of sift through the garbage, and I was a little bit disappointed seeing the same 4 or 5 apps from months before still being kind of displayed as the front runners, and like Beat Saber, SuperHot, Resident Evil 4 VR, these same ones where I'm like, there really hasn't been that much kind of development over the last couple of years. And that being said, it could be because it's MetaQuest 2. I know there's a MetaQuest 3 coming out, but there does seem to be a little bit of a resurgence in headset technology still going forward. PSVR 2 came out, and still haven't seen some of better software being developed for it. Now, I do still have some things on my bucket list of items to play. Moss, I heard, is really good. There's a Moss 2 that I did not know was a thing before it came out. So, we'll see. We'll see what it is. All I know is that it was a very interesting experience. I feel like it kind of changed my perception. And there is something nice about a program or a entertainment vehicle in VR that can one, at least create the illusion of keeping you fit while you enjoy some games. Because even by the end of SuperHot, man, was this guy sweating. I mean, I was really working out, and it could be just me being completely out of shape, but man, it really did feel like a workout. And that was something that's like, you're just not going to get just sitting on the couch. But I did also try FitXR, a class there. That's a little bit more of an intensive class. It's all virtual. One of the things that Supernatural had, which was kind of like a little bit odd, was like it was a fully 3D image of the trainer. While it seemed like FitXR was kind of leaning into more of 3D model kind of thing, where there were just representations like an old N64 model of the trainer. But that one was more intense than even I was expecting. And so Supernatural, I think, has the appeal when it comes to the music that's involved in it. But I think the better workout actually came from FitXR. And these things are littered, again, with these workout apps. Again, I'm not sure how much of an illusion of the workout it is. It'd be interesting to see how many calories I actually burn. I know they give you some sort of indication at the end of some of these levels that you're burning calories, but I don't know how accurate those things are. But it was such an interesting experience, though. I really enjoyed my time with that kind of stuff and sitting down for it. So, but also this week, just wrapping up the week, we always do a movie review on this podcast. For the last 2 episodes, episode 0 and episode 1, we have reviewed a movie. And I'm thinking about calling this segment Dinner and a Movie. So maybe I can make an interstitial to kind of make this thing flow a little bit better from segment to segment. Right now, I do have a soundboard, so I can add some applause every single time we start to switch subjects. That could be a thing. But this week, I was able to take in the movie The Greatest Showman, which stars Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron and Michelle Williams. And basically it goes over the story and the origin story of P.T. Barnum and the Barnum and Bailey circus that was canceled about 5 years ago in 2017. I was not expecting to watch this movie. I kind of had a vague recollection that this movie that came out. I think it was a Christmas blockbuster when it came out. I did get the opportunity to see the circus before they closed up shop with my family about 5 years ago. They came over to the area and did one last show. And it was even interesting at the time to see the circus and to kind of view and take in the circus, because it did feel even dated as it wrapped up its run. There's obviously the cultural things that kind of come along with the circus, and the animals and stuff like that, and how they're being kind of transported and treated. And I know that was a big thing that eventually I think led to the demise of the circus in general. I saw them a couple times, I think, as a kid. And even at the time, it just kind of felt a little bit old and kind of out of place. But it was good to see them, when I could. This movie is a musical, which, again, I think becomes a bad word to some people. I think when people hear the word musical, their minds will go to Oklahoma. Their minds might go to Rent. Their minds might go to that one song they've heard, and their minds go to sleeping in a theater, trying to endure 2 acts of seemingly a painful musical. And as a guy who loves musicals and has been in many musicals, let me tell you, there are some painful shows, plays, and musicals on Broadway every single year that are not as painful as the ones that you're viewing every single day in the theater or live on stage. There are some interesting shows. I think people, when I did used to work for Schubert, for the Schubert organization, they used to give us free tickets for everything. And in order to kind of talk about the show with customers who were buying tickets, because I worked at the ticketing office, they would hand out tickets to everything, except for like the big ticket item shows. So like Wicked at the time was really big, and some of the shows, my God, you would really start thinking about building a cot in the middle of the audience just to take a nap. There were some snooze fests in there, and it was interesting to think about Broadway as like kind of even an area where you could test run a show, because I think I certainly still believe this to this day. People test things on off-Broadway, and by the time it comes to Broadway, it's this fully fledged, can't fail kind of thing. It's anything but. There are a lot of shows that just kind of flop when they come. So not everything is a Hamilton. Hamilton came from off-Broadway, public theater, and then came to Broadway, and it blew up. And obviously Lin-Manuel Miranda had success in Into the Heights before he even did Hamilton. So it's not just this everything on the show floor is great. It can be very, very different. This movie is a musical. Really good music. It's almost like a rock pop musical that reminds me of those ones that were coming out in the 90s of like a Rent-esque kind of thing. But the music kind of gets you going, and it talks about the origin story of P.T. Barnum. And because I'm doing my own production here, let me transition. Hard cut. It basically stars Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum as he kind of struggles through, raising his family and being a showman. And he gets the idea to basically create a museum of illusions, and which eventually becomes kind of a showcase of oddities, almost like a Ripley's Believe It or Not. And he starts recruiting people different times. Now, this is depicting the 1800s. So there's, it's very, very period piece. It's very, very cool sets, very spectacular sets. They did a great job kind of putting you in the world of this 1800s New York City. Zendaya is in it, or Zendaya, depending on how she wants to pronounce it, or how you do pronounce it, is in this movie as well, who plays opposite of Zac Efron, who is the partner of P.T. Barnum. The songs, again, are great. It made me want to go in and try to figure out the history of Barnum and Bailey. It kind of made me feel, lucky to have seen it when it was still around. But when you start kind of digging into the history of P.T. Barnum, you start kind of realizing that the real life characters are not necessarily as charming as this movie is going to depict them. It's a very sugar-coated version of probably what happened or how it kind of came to be. Obviously a musical format. This isn't a documentary. This is just a musical. It is a spectacle. It is a really good movie. It keeps you interested the entire time. And Hugh Jackman. It's Hugh Jackman in a movie. How could you go wrong? with him as the main character. So it's they have a really good chemistry, both Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron. I recommend anybody go back and go see it. I don't think it's the most typical Christmas blockbuster. Again, this is 2 weeks in a row, because last week we were talking about The Boys in the Boat. And I don't think that The Boys in the Boat is that typical Christmas blockbuster that you want to see, that really brings people to the theater. I don't know how well it actually did. I should go check that. Go see The Greatest Showman. It's an interesting, puts you in an interesting time period and interesting world. Great sets, great music. The music is really the thing to take away from this film, and maybe it changes people's perspectives about seeing musicals, and opens them up a little bit more to a movie that's going to have some of that in it. So, great movie. Go see it. And that's The Greatest Showman. And I think with that, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Powell Not Found podcast. Again, this is the podcast that talks about the things that I want to talk about. Not you, just me. We're going to do, again, reviews of movies that we've been watching. We might talk about a little bit of sports stuff that comes across. It's been pretty quiet, actually, in the baseball world. People are getting signed and doing some trades and stuff like that. But when something really, really big kind of comes across, we'll probably talk about that. But for now, we're just talking about the things that I'm consuming, and hopefully next week we'll have a new slate of things to talk about. But with that said, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for listening. Again, like and subscribe the channel. Tell me about things that you want to see, whether they're gaming videos or movie reviews or different series. Go ahead and leave a comment if you'd like. And again, thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for listening. This is the Powell Not Found podcast.
I'm gonna tell you a story about a girl who loves gin.